Call the executive committee meeting in order. Affidavit was posting, the agenda was posted in the office of county clerk on the 10th day of September 2020. Notice given to the Westman Daily News, Express News, WIBD, WMBZ Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, the Hartford Times Press, Kewaskum Statesman, and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. We have a quorum. Everyone is present. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is consent agenda. Motion, second by Jeff. Any corrections? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and to the action items, the 2021 county attorney budget. Are there any questions regarding that? County? Huh? Yeah, into your mic.
You have to press a button. Oh,
She'll get it for you.
okay. Hello. I just wanted to compliment, of the three budgets here, you're the only one that actually cut a budget. So thank you very much for doing that. We sincerely appreciate that. I mean, I know you put a lot of work into doing what you've done, all the codification of the ordinances and resolutions and all of the things that we pass, and still being able to do all that you've done. And trim your budget is a testament to the great job you're doing, and wanted to personally thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Good job, Brad. Are there any other discussion?
Yeah, yes, thank you, sir. I have a question.
One
just on-
second. Let her turn you on.
There
There.
you go. Thank you. I have a question. Item 2 highlights child support. The second notice, or the second item there, it references a growing caseload of over 4,200 cases. That is for the county. Is that correct?
Yes,
And that's ongoing at any point, kind of a snapshot in time, September 1, whatever.
right. That's where we're at approximately right now. And it goes up and down a little bit. And the issue had been for us that our caseworkers at the staffing level we had before we brought a couple of new specialists in we were way above the state average on a per worker basis as to how many cases they were handling. And so now we're still above that, but we're bringing it far more in line with what it should be on a per worker basis. And the idea is that in doing that, we can process cases quicker, more efficiently, and meet our numbers easier.
Based on our population, what would you say we should be at? What level should we be? 2,500, 3,000, 15, what?
Well, the number of cases that we have total, I mean, it's hard to say because we're a growing county, but a per worker average around the state is maybe 800 or 900 cases, something like that. And we have about, with the change we make, about 1,200 cases, 1,100 cases now per person, maybe a little less than that. But we were way above that.
So we're running a 25 to 30% above the norm is what you're saying.
Yeah, we have a heavy caseload.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Okay, any other discussion? Supervisor Dice?
I have some questions, Brad.
Sure.
On purchase services under the county attorney, that's quite an increase from what you expect this year. Can you explain?
Yes, we have a retirement in our office. Deputy County Attorney Kim Lecker is retiring in November. And I brought in a new Assistant County Attorney Eileen Evans. And because we also have another Assistant County Attorney, Catherine Romanowicz, who's going out on maternity leave in a couple of weeks, we're going to be down staff. And so I asked for an increase in fee in the amount of money I have that I can spend on outside counsel if we need assistance for a short period of time. Eileen Evans, my newest attorney, is taking on some cases here in my office that I wasn't expecting she'd be ready to take on so quickly. And so I'm encouraged by that, and I'm hopeful that we will not actually have to go to outside counsel to assist us with certain things, contract matters and so forth. But that's the reason for it. It was anticipating we might need to bring in some outside help for a period of time to handle that retirement. a new attorney who needed to be trained, and then an attorney who's going out on maternity leave who wouldn't be able to be in office to help us.
Okay, but you have 6,000 in your explanations for that purpose?
Right.
Okay, so if you add that with what it was, that gets me up to 12,000. Where's the other 6 then? What's the other 6 for?
I had asked originally, I think, for 10. Yeah. Margie, let's put you on.
Under purchase services.
You just
It
press the
appears
button.
that in 2019 and 2020,
You gotta hold it.
the actual between $5,000 and $6,000 for a year. So now it's up to 18,600. And he added another 6 onto that expected 6.
So the 2019 actual was about $6,000. The 2020 budget was $12,000. So he's adding another 6 on top of that 12,000. Yes,
Even though the estimated actual for this year is 6,700.
correct. We were probably not going to spend what we had budgeted for the contracted attorney. But rather than relying on a non-lapse, we're budgeting for it again next year.
All right, that answers that question. Oh, just a minute, I gotta look back at my bubble here to see my notes. Oh, page 2, there's a reduction in child support charges, increase in human services charges. Can you explain that to me, what that means?
Yes, let me get my note on that out. Can hold that just for a second.
It's at the top of page 2 under.
Right,
the
I'm just seeing what the notes were
revenues.
on that. So, right. Yeah. Yeah,
Sure.
right.
Yeah, so Supervisor Dice, I actually asked that same question at the budget meetings a month ago. And every budget is seeing an increase on the interdepartmental charges. And that increase is covering increased IT services that are being offered.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the exact note on that, but that's,
Where's Dave?
yeah,
So it's a good question.
yeah, that might be the
Yep.
new phones. We're just talking about that over here.
One other thing. Oh, just we always have goals on all of these, and I've been wondering if the goals from the previous year have been met. Would you say that you've met those goals from last year?
Well, we were somewhat derailed a little bit this year, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so we've held some of them over. For example, the going to a more paperless type system. We're still working on that. We hope to have more of a scanning system in place, and we haven't been able to accomplish that this year. But we have been able to implement cross training. We have been able to bring in new staff. We have been able to look at different efficiencies. We have been able to streamline our process. So a lot of those things we are doing, and they're ongoing. The big thing we really wanted to accomplish, going more paperless, we haven't been able to get that as far as we would have liked this year. We were home working out of the house, a lot of us, for a good chunk of the summer. But it still remains a goal, and we're still getting there. We've got the equipment for it. We've got a plan for it. We just weren't able to implement. So it's an ongoing thing.
All right. Then this is just a comment on the overall budget, only because we have so many new supervisors on board. And one of the items on every budget is purchase services. And I think for every department that can, if you try and define it, it's going to be different for every department. So I don't know if there is a way to help or explain or define that, what that consists of in these departments. Only because this is one of the biggest things we do as the county board is approve a budget every year. It's the dollars and cents that are going to be spent. And if supervisors don't have an understanding of what that is, how can they realistically approve a budget? So that's my comment. I don't know if something can be done about it, but it would be nice.
Not easily, no. Like you said, every department that's different. So a department like our county attorney and our child support, it's basically professional services that they contract. For my department, it's things like our auditor and our actuary. For facilities, it's things like our custodian staff that are hired outside. So I know it's a very broad name for that category, but how we treat it as anything that the county purchases as a service from another entity that we don't do in-house. So it's a very generic, but I would say if we've got specific questions for specific departments, we could easily pull like what that covers, but no easy way to do it for overall.
Every time, what is this? What is this covering?
So speaking to Ms. Dice, I like what you're saying there. I think that we should go a little bit further with that. Is that possible that purchase services can be asterisked and then on the spreadsheet added a little bit of an example at the bottom of, like that you would do for a cliff note on a book? And maybe give at least some ideas. Like your explanation was fine. I understood it right away. When you're talking about a department, so we have to purchase extra psychological care for children and stuff like that. Boom, I got it. But it's all it takes is an asterisk and a little bit of a cliff note on the bottom and the spreadsheet. And I think generally people would understand what that means.
Yeah, we can try to incorporate that change. I don't know that we'll get it this year. My budget supervisor is leaving, so, but yeah, we'll definitely include it in for next year's additions.
Really?
And the rest of them are fine, but purchase services is just too vague. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, vote on this. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Oh, we don't have a motion second? Oh, I need a motion on that. I thought,
I motioned it.
oh, that was consent. Okay, Supervisor Bossert and Supervisor Mary. All right. Now that we have a motion and a second, let's all vote on that. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we're good to go. Thanks, Mary. Gotta keep after me. That's all I can say. County board budget, let's go with, immediately, let's, Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Dice. Okay. Are there any questions on this one?
If you don't want to do it, I can do it. Just based on what we purchased. Yeah, true.
That all goes to me. No.
Nice.
Oh.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Supervisor Mary.
Regarding personnel expenditures, 2021 requested budget, 205,494. Should we assume, I'm just anticipating future, as we go into 2022, we should see that come down? I mean, is that the current planning? We're going to go from 26 to 21, that I'm just looking toward to the future that we should see by just natural accrual that should drop. Is that correct, sir?
It should drop somewhat, depending upon in 2022.
Yeah, in 22, right, correct.
Beginning in April
I just, all right,
at the new session.
All right.
So
thank you, sir.
depending upon Go ahead, Margie.
So your purchase services, the biggest cost in there are your membership dues for WCA and NACO. That makes up about 16,000, 17,000 of that total. The next biggest piece is the broadcasting fees that we pay to broadcast the county board meetings.
We spend that much money to get spammed by those two organizations? I mean, basically,
From your
Yeah.
lips to God's ears.
Well, we do get we may be paying too much for those services, but we do get an awful lot back from them when it really comes down to it. You know, just the attorney, having the attorney on retainer is a big savings that if we have to go out. Go ahead.
I agree with you that attorney services, that would be definitely a nod to WCA, but as far as with NACO, you know, this week in pictures type of thing is I could do without those. And I'm just wondering, do you have the breakdown of the cost of what the NACO thing is?
According to the documents that I have, the NACO membership is budgeted at 2,600, and then WCA and some other smaller items are 14,006.
Okay, so that's quite a bit more, but even at 2,600, I'd sure like to know what we're getting out of it, because I'm, you know.
But NACO, I don't know if we get a reduction in fees when we attend NACO events, like when we go to DC or I don't know, but we do have contacts through that.
Okay.
Supervisor Mahalik, just today, I mean, some of the things we don't see is on NACO and WCA. For instance, WCA, we all get Wheel Report and WIS Politics for free. I use that every day. I can tell you it's several $1,000s if I were to subscribe to that myself, and everybody would do that, number one. Number two, on NACO today, I reached out to legislative staff. They help us on certain grant writing. They do go to congressmen's offices on our behalf. I use NACO and WCA weekly. So if you don't,
Oh,
you know.
This is being charged to the board, and you don't work for the board.
That members, because that membership fee covers the county as a whole, we don't split it by user departments. I don't know why it's in the board, but that is for the county as a whole.
That's fine. I'm just wondering why it's on our budget then. So, always has been, isn't an answer.
Because the board members are the voting members at NACO and WCA. So next week, Supervisor Dice will sit in on the annual meeting for WCA, because by their bylaws, only a supervisor can. And same thing for NACO. If you were to go to the annual meeting, the voting member are the board members, not staff, not the executive.
I might get it, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah, and I know
We're not using it.
the fees for WCA, they remind us every year, they haven't gone up in, I think, 15 years. So they remain level. So at least they're not going up. So
They're an excellent
little
resource
solace.
on topics that come up.
I'm not,
We were looking at the size of the board to contact WCA for help and information. That's valuable.
well, I'm not
So-
arguing the WCA, even though it's the larger amount. I'm just not seeing anything from NACO that impacts me as far as the things that I read that I
You
see.
don't read that little newspaper from
Oh,
page to page?
No, I can honestly say if I can keep, have enough toothpicks to keep my eyes open when going through that, I do try and at least hit all the headlines.
I think we could probably discuss that further with the county executive, because it's an elected position now. Typically NACO but we are elected also.
I understand.
So
All I'm saying, I'm not trying to make a big deal.
Right.
As much about the dollar amount. I just think it should be properly placed where it's being used. And I don't know that we're using it a whole lot. So whoever's using it should pay for it out of their budget. So there you go. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Bossert.
Okay, on the issue of WCA membership dues and NACO membership dues, we certainly could have the county executive budget cover part of that cost. To a little extent, it's kind of like figuring out if you're taking money from your checking account or your savings account, we're still paying the same money, but I can understand the budget issue. The one thing I did want to think about is with CCTV, with our new technology that we have, where we now have a camera in here, and eventually we're going to remodel this room so that we're facing the camera. I'm wondering if that's a service we need to continue to contract out, or if we could transition to simply providing them the feed for our Zoom meeting, and they could broadcast that. And, that could be a little bit of a savings. So that's an idea to consider, I guess. All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I want everybody to know too that with the exception of the interdepartmental charges with IT, sorry, again, we actually lowered our budget until that came through. So we lowered our purchase services, we lowered the travel and training, and eliminated the other expenses completely. So we did a lot of chopping on this one too, to make it a little bit more palatable. So, okay, we have a motion to say, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, vote all in favor. Yes, yeah, I did that right away. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Motion passes. 2021 county executive budget. I see Josh is not here. Matt, are you going to be speaking to this? If we have any answer your questions?
Ethan here,
Mhm.
between the two of us, plus.
Yeah,
we
let's have a
Marty.
motion.
We have Mark.
Supervisor Dice and Supervisor Mary. Are there any questions, discussions? Supervisor Dice.
Thank you. Under revenue, can you define the public charges, what that incurs or what that is?
There are vending machines in the building that public and employees use. The commissions off of that, we recognize in here because it actually goes against a portion of the expenses shown in other expenses for employee appreciation.
Thank you. I have to go back to my bubbles. What was the other revenue for 2019? Oh, 2020? Oh, wrote my note down wrong. Yeah. That-
Estimated action.
That,
Makes me laugh. I know, but it makes me laugh. Yeah, what was the increase?
There was some donations that came in. I'm not sure what they were for.
Forever honoring our, maybe,
What was that?
the walk,
Nope, those were in bets.
doesn't that?
Yeah. I could get more detail if I maybe pull up the ledger, but it's donation revenue essentially.
was it earmarked for something specific then?
How much? No.
$6,400.
Oh, yeah, was that Josh?
No.
His donation?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, guys. Our county executive refused a portion of his salary and donated it back to the county. That's that revenue stream. Because he has to get his wages recognized in full, and then he donates a portion back.
Thank you. And then he's asking for an executive assistant position.
Yes,
So what is that? And
that's in place of Mary's part-time, and we need a full-time person. And that's what we're doing. We will bring on board a new full-time person.
yes,
Thank you. I love that word. We need a full-time, since Josh has been here, okay, Matt, we've already given him you.
taking it. And so we've already given him Ethan Hollenberger. So, I mean, we've increased staff twice there. Now we're asking for a full-time executive assistant. You use the word need. I know that a lot of what, at least how it was originally defined when Ethan came on board, that it was only 25% that you'd be used, as far as going back and forth with going to the state and things like that in a lobbying effort. That leaves 75% there. And again, Matt, you do a great job, but we already have increased headcount. Now we're looking to increase the headcount again. Define need for me. Why suddenly is there a need
Well,
where, I mean, it just seems extraordinary from my perspective.
It's not suddenly, if you recall, Judy was full-time. And we were able to allocate some of those dollars with emergency management, but actually she was working at least 90% of the time serving the county administrator and his staff. So we took a chance and said, let's reduce that because of Ethan coming on board. But we're generating more and more of that type of need.
Define
sir.
need. What's happening that all of a sudden we have to increase this additional headcount?
Well, we're putting out more documentations. We have a web page. We have a number of things that we're constantly sending out.
Well, isn't the webpage part of the communication director? I mean, isn't that what, I mean, isn't that communications where I'm just asking for a rationalization, because I know this is going to come up. I know it's going to be, we're adding to the administrative again. Josh does a great job of cutting everybody else, but he gets his more people, and
I can answer that.
that's
also.
fine.
Ethan, every time we tab him to do something other than what he's been tasked to do, to be our lobbyist, takes him away from what he's been doing. So the time that he spends doing this job is actually counterproductive to having him doing what he needs to be doing.
Okay,
we
what's
have-
the
we
other
have-
75% then? I guess I'm asking that would be, if I could, and this can be you or this can be Ethan, that this executive assistant is going to be doing, that the two of you and plus, the part-time person who obviously we're supplanting is doing. I just want to know, why all of a sudden is there this mountain of work that requires us to increase this for the administration? I'm just
So
puzzled.
it's when I came, I became the third FTE in that office. We were budgeted at 3.5. We had cut the part-time intern and the full-time Judy EA. Judy Steiner. We were using Mary. So half of this FTE is going back to before I got here. To
No,
3.5.
are we talking Mary? This Mary?
This Mary.
Okay. Hi, Mary.
And so part of this budget moved some of her money kind of over here from the county clerk. So when Judy left, the county executive, at that time, county administrator, county clerk shared the position with the position remaining in the county clerk's office. There's been a resignation in the county clerk's office, and with some more reshuffling, that half-time FTE is being moved here. So with that reflected in the budget, we're back up to 3.5. We are asking for an additional 0.5 back to do some other things. What you pointed out, the communication director, which Jamie was doing a bulk of social media, things like that. The split between Jamie and county clerk, that's all coming back to the county executive's office. There are different cards and things that we send out, press releases. There's between Brad's office, there's nobody up there, so people to greet them. So there are other things. So net, we're asking for a 0.5, because Mary's position in this budget was always going to be, or that half position shared was always coming over. We're asking for that additional back.
Okay, so again, please, Mary, no offense. You do a great job as far as what I'm concerned, everything. I mean, you keep me on track, which is not an easy thing to do. So thank you for that in advance. But then what happens if she spent half her time doing that? what are you going to do now?
That's she'll do some of what the resignation, or they'll redo their office based on a half-time resignation that occurred.
So we had a halftime resignation in our office that's not being replaced.
So you're taking that and that believes that. See,
Right.
this would have helped. If in this report, and I know our county attorney did a great job, you know, he filled in highlights, he filled in goals. What we have here is coming soon, you know, and with Josh not here, I don't know what, you know, I mean, your explanation is valid. It should have been in here. Okay, it should have said, you know, this is what's happening. We had a resignation. We're taking Mary, moving her over. That leaves us 0.5, and we're just taking the 0.5 out of you know, what was a divided thing between the county executive's office and the county clerk's office, and we're just asking for that 0.5 literally to be moved to the full-time position. That explains it all. I shouldn't have to ask this in order to get the explanation you just gave me. And that's a frustrating thing from my perspective, because then, you know, I'm not sitting here rambling on about making sure that, you know, we're not doing an expansion of, because that's what it looks like. You look at this and it's like, well, what the frick-a-frack, you know, I mean, we shouldn't be in that position. So, I mean, I could support it now that I have an explanation, but it should have been in here.
Right. And with Mary's job, the chief deputy county clerk, that's a full-time position. And she's taken on added responsibilities, which spread her thin with the department.
Understood. Like I said, I'm
so-
not arguing anymore the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
But
so-
like Supervisor Dice said, if you could explain that right off the top, which was a good explanation, if we're voting for these dollars, which is what, $59,000 this year, it's gonna be $87,000, you know, when you're looking up, we should know what we're voting on. So that's, with that, I can support it, but it's just frustrating. I got to run around the tree to get there. Thank you.
Was Judy's position an executive assistant?
Yes. Supervisor Mary?
Yeah, just for clarification, it says at the top, county executive. Should we assume that for the first 3 months of the year, it was county administrative / county executive? Budget here for 2020 original budget, is that for the entire year for both of those departments?
Yeah, we just treated it as a title change. We're not splitting it into two departments, because the only thing that would show would be, like you said, 3 months of 2020 and 2019 actual, which would,
20 actual then is really for the entire 12 months of the year for everybody up on that floor.
correct. Yes.
All right.
Yep. Okay, so just to make sure I understand for budgeting purposes, in 2020, is part of Mary's salary budgeted to the county?
No, her budget is completely in the county clerk's office.
Working half.
Correct.
Okay, so with this change, we're essentially adding 1 FTE to the budget. County executive. Now county clerk, they're losing half an FTE.
Correct. The county clerk's budget has a reduction of a 0.5 FTE. The county clerk's budget has a reduction of 0.5 FTE.
Okay, so we're essentially still going up half an FTE at.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Supervisor Dice?
For 2019, it was 101,000 plus. The estimated actual for 2020 is 87,600, where the original budget was 39,750. So what caused that big jump?
So 2019 included the vets event, the forever honoring our vets. There was an event held for that, a recognition event. So those funds were in 2019, and then 2020, I believe. 2019 also included the $70,000 donation to the 9/11 memorial in the county. Correct.
But then this year's budget is 39,750 and estimated is jumping up to 87,600. So what is that?
So the $70,000 donation for the 9/11 memorial was not in the original budget, but it is included in the 2020 total estimated.
I thought it was in the 2019. Okay.
And that's, Margie, that's not levy money, correct? That's money that we took in that money from that. Yeah, okay.
There is a, Ethan or Matt, could you
Did-
help me? There is
Was-
a second payment for honoring our vets of 67,000 in 2020.
Yes.
What was that?
That's,
That's what that is.
that's 9/11.
What was the 70,000 in 2019?
Those are checks actually written. We retained the rest of the money into a WISC account. So then I get
That's
paid
the
out.
transfer paid out, yes. So the donations that came in from the event and after are being segregated into its own WISC, into its own investment account. Because those funds are to be held in perpetuity, and then the earnings on those funds will be used to fund the grave markers in the vets budget. So the accounting of that in 2020, any other donations that we paid out to that investment fund, that shows as an expense. That's just us making the transfer of those donations.
And that takes care of that then?
Unless we get more donations in, which I know the vet's office is still working on fundraising.
So even though he's asking for 59 plus for 21,
So the budget for 21 includes employee appreciation events.
okay, thank you.
And M7.
Yeah,
So the
M7,
19,
yeah,
the
that's
19.5 is
12,000.
is a merger of two accounts on the back end. We have employee incentives, which you know as spot bonuses.
Yeah.
And then we have the employee appreciation, which you know as the Christmas party in Hartford in February and the fair event. We merged those together, so the +7 into that account. And we're investing for the first time in M7, which is 12.5, which gets you to 19.5.
Okay. All right. The way the numbers look, it was like, is he maybe under budgeting for 21 based on, the past numbers, but okay. That answers my questions on that. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Kelly. You're still ciphering over there?
Yeah,
Marking it so we can update it for the board.
no problem. I'll wait. Okay. Because my question is directed, we're going to circle back a little bit to the personnel. Okay, so we have Josh, we have Ethan, we have Matt, and now we're going to have an executive assistant, correct? Is there anybody else in that leadership role? Is that it?
Right.
Okay. And then, I'll kind of circle back to what Tim said. Please don't take offense. I'm only asking the question. When this whole county executive thing happened, I thought you were going to retire, Matt. No, you didn't. And I'm glad you didn't, because I'm thrilled to see you here, especially with Samaritan, and nobody knows more than you know about it. But I guess kind of the original plan was it always going to be that we were going to have the exec, what is, and a side question, is Dan, he used to be IT, or Dave?
Dave.
Yeah. So what is he doing with he's not in part of your department? part of your
No,
personnel?
he's administration. He oversees IT, finance, HR.
Okay, so that's not part of county exec.
No,
Okay. All right, so it's kind of an administrator position. So we got a deputy, we got a county exec, a deputy county exec, an administrator. Public coordinator, I don't know what your exact title is. Ethan, and then the executive or the executive assistant. I just want to get this all straight because I get questions on this all the time. Well, I thought we are going to, and you know, and I only want to know how I can answer these questions properly. But I don't really have kind of a flow chart of how things are working in that office.
Dave doesn't work in our office.
Okay.
Dave, like Jamie, for a little while, Jamie was in our office, but Jamie, Julie Driscoll and Health and Human Services, and Scott Schmidt, who's now not just highway commissioner and county surveyor and whatever other legal statute titles he had, is director of public works. They lead based on the committee, so they're running the committee kind of structure that you have outside of our office without creating FTEs. They're doing their old job and kind of maintaining the old positions. If that makes sense. But they're not in our office.
Okay. No, and again, I'm not trying to put on anything on anybody. I'm just trying to understand the structure a little bit better so I can answer questions. You know, because a lot of us, when we went to this position, were under the opinion that we could see some savings in personnel and how things are done. And it seems like it's going back the other way. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. I got to look into this a little bit more. So I just want to be clear about this. I personally don't have a problem with the executive assistant. Now hearing the explanation, I thought Tim, you know, really did a good job of bringing that to the forefront and getting us clear on what that's about with Mary going back to county clerk. So, all right. So I guess I got a good handle on it. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and also, I think Ethan was explaining that we identified people that would take on dual roles of doing administrative work, as you know, because the executive is not the administrator. So we're still in a learning curve yet, but this is something that we talked about all through it, that we would, you know, we wouldn't hire an administrator, we would do that from in-house. So we're actually, when you look at it too, we're taking people and reallocating their skills to take another position that we could have hired too. So keep that in perspective too. So it's a lot of different moving targets. So Supervisor Schleif.
Thank you. So going forward, now fill me in. Ethan, we hired you for 2 years, right? And don't get me wrong, you're doing a great job. There were parameters and you exceeded all those, but where do we go looking down the road with that? You know what I'm asking?
Yes.
Yeah, we can come back to you on that one, on what you guys want to see out of the positions, but I continue to work with grants and saving money, and Margie and I worked very closely on the CARES Act routes to recovery. You know, some of the things at Brownfield, some of the things that come in.
I understand that, but wasn't that a 2-year position? So what happens at the end of 2 years? We're not leaving you hanging.
I believe there was a re-up.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
I'm okay.
You know, one of the things too that you didn't really talk about is his influence in directing some of the legislation that we need as a county to our state legislators, his contacts and ability to work with that. I mean, that's why we have a biennial budget. You know, that's, you know.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
impressed with what he's done. I'm
But
just
yeah.
hoping it's
But,
not ending.
You know, this
soon.
whole kind of reorganization allows Ethan to do what he does best and not to be distracted by some of the other things that an administrative assistant would do. So he can be, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, if you've got a boss and he comes out and he starts running one of the machines in a machine shop, well, that's not a really good use of his talents. So hopefully this allows Ethan to even get better and to continue to work with our legislators and continue to do, what we really want him to do. And he's not distracted by, smaller tasks that takes away from some of the things that he does. So
I suppose you could consider a vote for the budget a reauthorization of the position.
When did we hire you?
2 years ago on September 10th.
Okay, so.
oh, you're on borrowed time.
No, I had to,
What are we doing in 2021?
the footnote, remember the staffing plan's out of the county code, but the footnote that was created at the time was if I hadn't saved, I don't know what it was, 250,000,
400,000.
400,000, that the position would cease to exist. We gave a presentation to the board a year ago that I had done that, and now you could, if I were defending this in Madison, I would say you're reauthorizing my position in the budget.
Thank you.
So, I mean, if you don't want me to exist anymore, you would just take an FTE out of the county executives. That's the way you would do it, right, Brad? I mean, you would take the FTE away.
Okay, Supervisor Dice.
Thank you. Is there a specific job description for this position? For executive assistant, not yours, Ethan?
Yes, we've been working on it, and yes, there is.
Can a copy of that be supplied to the board
Sure.
when this comes up?
Yeah.
I'd like to, because I would like to see what that all entails. Does that go before administrative committee for approval? That job description? No? Does the job description go before administrative committee for approval?
I think it's already an existing position in.
Well, yeah, but that's why I asked if there was a specific job description for this position.
Yeah, I would assume there is because of
Yeah.
the fact that it used to exist. We cut the job, but not the description. We only cut the
Well,
person.
the description might have changed. some
And
when Judy
it
was
has
here.
changed.
Yeah,
I've been working on it with the planning committee. So,
Okay.
yes.
all right.
Supervisor Bossert.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding right and that I can communicate to constituents. We've created committee cabinet chair positions, one that matches each of the standing committees on the county board. And we also have a deputy county executive or
Yes.
essentially Matt Furno.
Yep.
And we have Ethan. It seems like there's the potential for some redundancy there. So, and this may be a question that we need to defer an answer to until we have the budget hearing, which will be next month, right?
November. Or October.
Public hearing is in October.
The hearing is October. We
Yeah,
approve
so
it
that'll
in
be next
November.
month. But it'd be good to have an answer for long-term, what the staffing plan is and how the deputy position and the committee chairs are different from each other, what each is doing. So we can really pin this down and feel confident. You know, we
Cabinet
want
members?
What's that?
You mean cabinet members or?
cabinet members, yeah. Yeah, we want to be confident. We want to keep a good rapport with the county executive. That's one of the keys to switching to county executive is that relationship between the county board and the executive has to remain strong. But part of the switch was premised on that this was going to save us money and not that we would have new costs with a new position created and increasing the total FTE. The other thing that might be nice is a historical comparison. I think back to 2016, I think Josh had Jamie Ludovic in the county administrator's office and Judy Steiner. So I think at that time they were at 3.0. So seeing kind of a historical progression where they were at maybe in 2014 as well. So we can kind of see that progression. I think that would be helpful to have for the public hearing in October. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Margie, I have a question for you. With the reorganization and adding back positions that were taken out, what exactly have we actually increased staffing, I know we kind of went over this before, but
If-
we had a full-time previous with Judy, which was about 90%, was in the clerk's office, and we utilized funds through LE, so anyhow, where do we stand on actual staffing? Can you answer that?
Are you asking for the county overall? Or specific to the county executive, county administration?
Added, going back to what we had subtracted prior.
I would have to pull some data on that. Off the top of my head, I would say we've increased it because Ethan's been added, and that's a completely brand new position within the last couple of years.
Okay, well, notwithstanding Ethan, because he was hired separately, but if we look at Judy Steiner's position and the elimination of it, and basically just adding extra responsibilities into the clerk's office to try to bridge that gap, and we found out that we can't bridge that gap, so we've basically reinstated that one person back.
I would say essentially yes, because we previously had a county administrator, a deputy, I don't know what Jamie's title was, and then Judy's position. We're kind of reverting back to that if you ignore Ethan's position.
Ethan's position is typically a cost benefit with some of the grants and things that we bring in that we wouldn't have had before. So, all right, I want to just try to get things in a little bit perspective, that we're not just throwing extra people at a problem. We're actually trying to work around and reduce staffing, and it's become untenable for staff to handle that additional stuff and still be efficient. Okay, go ahead, Supervisor Shrive.
To simplify, before we had 3 FTE in that department, and now we have 4, but we've added Ethan, and Ethan more than pays for himself. So it's a net.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying
Right.
to say, that it's not, we don't consider Ethan, because that was he was hired specifically for another purpose, not to be part of that staff. He's our yeah. What is your exact title? We changed your title now, right? It's not community.
I'm
Public
the,
affairs coordinator?
I think the intergovernmental and press relations coordinator.
Okay. Yeah. So,
No,
yeah,
that's why it says public affairs coordinator.
it's got a big card. It's got a
Yeah.
big card.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think, keeping things in perspective, Ethan's the extra, but he's doing a completely different purpose. And he works for us at the board, and for the citizens, and for the county executive as elected position too. So he works for all of us. So, okay, that's,
Well, and understand a lot of these questions are coming from, we have to be able to explain this to our constituents. When people come up, hey, you said, well, I got to be able to come back and say, well, this is what's going on. And obviously be honest about it, that goes without saying, but sometimes this can get pretty darn confusing when we're playing a little musical chairs, and you gotta just try and come up with the answers, and it's not always easy to do.
I think you've all seen too, that one of the goals from the county executive's office was to get more information out. Have you seen, we've increased social media explanations. Josh explains everything that happens in the board in 3 minutes. We're going to post tonight an entire speech he gave yesterday to the Greater Jackson Business Alliance. Those are things we've never done before. And you're seeing on our social media that people can see Josh and see you. We set up the entire streaming operation. This meeting is being streamed. We've never done that before. And that takes time, staff time, to learn that, to do that, to set it up, to get the technology. So there are other things that 2 years ago when I got hired, we never even thought about necessarily doing, that we now have bodies to do. Think about it. When you talk about what happened at committee, and there's no reporter here. And 2 years ago, maybe 4 months or 6 months after I got hired, we all sat around and said, how do we get the information out? Well, this meeting's being streamed, and does take staff. And to Supervisor Boss's earlier point, to end the streaming contract with West Bend, if that's what you choose to do, I mean, that's $6,000, and that we need staff to do that now. So I think that's the hope, is to me and the EA would almost, to use Josh's terms, focus on the people, is to get the information out. I mean, we're going to have a behemoth of a newsletter, 16 pages of content in this budget. I mean, somebody has to do that to get the information out, because that's what you all have been asking as a board. How do we get more information out? So there'll be some good things that we can add to the office.
Supervisor Bossert.
So I'm kind of thinking out loud here a little bit, which could be dangerous, but
I'll cut you off if you got it.
but I'm thinking about Ethan's job, and Ethan reports to the county executive, but the job itself, I'm wondering if it really belongs in the county executive budget, or if it really is a new department that we need to recognize and create a budget for. Because Ethan's job is broader than the county exec, or maybe not. And I see Ethan right away shaking his head no. So
No,
maybe that's-
I need the ability to today, and some of the things, I need the ability to report to an elected official who can make a decision, so we can make decisions on behalf of the county. If I'm my own department,
you
or
would
that,
still report into Josh.
yeah, but to the quickness of, this is speaking on behalf of the elected official as opposed to the department, where it comes to the board and goes there. The decisions we make, we base on the resolutions and the procedures that you all pass. But to have the direct connection of the county executive, I mean, that's how NACO and other things, that's how we operate with that. That's how the speed and the efficiencies that we have compared to other counties who do it differently is amazing now.
It's just that one.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so what Ethan would talk about is it gives them the nimbleness to be able to respond in real time. Because there are things that pop up, and we need to be at this event. We didn't even know it was happening, and then we're there. So we need to have anything. We need to have a presence, and getting the prep and everything done at a short time. I mean, you're talking about sometimes we have a 5 o'clock event, and Ethan's got the email out at 3:30. This is what we need to do, and put together something to talk about, and this is where we're going to be. So, it is beneficial. It'll be great to have someone that really can sit down and coordinate that, not have to put things aside in order to do that. I know Ethan does a great job with it, but I think he's way more valuable doing the things we actually hired him for. So we'll keep him. Yeah. All right. You're good to go. Supervisor Mahalik.
Oh, I said, let's call the question.
Oh, call the question. All right. Seeing no more, no further discussion. We'll vote on this. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Huh? We did a motion.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought we did a motion.
It
didn't we?
was,
Well, then I,
yeah, Supervisor Dyson. Yeah, we did. That was a long time ago, though. It was Dyson Mary. I think that's who it was. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, great. Next meeting date, October 21st, 2020. Notice at 6 o'clock PM. It is the budget hearing. That's by code. Here, thanks for coming. We're hereby adjourned. Thank you.
Is that the full board?
Sure. Huh?
Is that the full board meeting or just?
It's exec. Exec holds the budget hearing now. And then the full board does the, yeah.